Of our top stories. The 95 Libyans appearing in the White River Magistrates Court in Mpumalanga over this illegal military camp has drawn attention now to the political situation in Libya. That country is being governed by a government of national unity. Some parts are run by militia groups. But let's find out exactly what that looks like and whether they oftentimes operate under the legitimacy of the state. We will talk about it with researcher advocate Sipho Mantula from the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs. Sipho, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and refreshing morning to your viewers.
So, again, we are speculating a lot about what exactly happened here, and hopefully their court appearance today will give us some idea on the circumstances of them being here. By all accounts, though, it seems they have broken the law by engaging in some of the activities that they're alleged to have been engaged in at this illegal military camp, which then naturally poses the question of why might they be here, which relates then back to the situation in Libya following the death and the killing of its leader, Muammar Gaddafi, back in 2011. We see a couple of names coming up in terms of armed groups which operate in Libya, even though they have a government of national unity. I'd love for you to just give us a nice sort of drone perspective on the politics at play in Libya today.
Thank you, ma'am. As we have laid that carpet very clear that the post-Muammar Gaddafi's era has created tension of many armed groups, both coming from the south to the north of Libya, contesting for power. Now, you'll understand that even the United Nations, the AU, has failed to mediate that post-Gaddafi's governance and era. Hence, we have many military groups that have been operating in Libya through Tunisia, through Algeria. They've been using many neighboring countries to perpetuate these military activities. But as you said, linking it to South Africa, it is not clear with this arrest whether are they linked to some of the armed groups in Libya. As the police have said, the investigation is, it is still going on. But you look, ma'am, when I looked at our laws in the country, that 26 years ago, South Africa came up with a law on what we called the regulation of foreign military assistance. What they have committed so far, it is a crime that you can classify it under the mercenary activity. And that's where you will understand that recruiting or using or training people or financing them to engage in mercenary activity, the law doesn't allow that. Hence, you've got penalties, offenses according to our law. But going back again to your key question, the geopolitics of Libya, it is that obviously you will have all those armed groups leaving their country, receiving military secret training in other countries. But I think through South Africa, it was something that I think was an oversight that we never considered, that we'll have Libyan armed groups or irregular armed groups coming to receive training under the pretext of security guard.
I want to go back to the anatomy of some of these armed groups. And when we think about armed groups or even armed militias, you get the idea that they often, operate outside of the law, or that they are not known, and that there are these sporadic conflicts that happen. The Libyan picture appears to me, and I've done very cursory reading of this, I must admit, Sipho, but my cursory understanding is that some of them operate, within the knowledge and almost the acceptance of the law in the context of the government of national unity. There are some who, where there's a concern where they might be influencing certain decisions or members in that GNU. So just clarify for us, what is the nature of how they operate in Libya? Whether, are they accepted? Are some on the run? I mean, what's the story there, Sipho? What do you know?
No, Imam, what you can understand, you have the two opposing sides here, one operating from Tripoli, others from Benghazi. And that's how you could see that, there are no laws, there are no rules there, Imam. When you are in an armed conflict, you will sometimes even violate the international humanitarian law. You'll also violate the African Union laws, because they've been on this contestation of power. There have been many times where there's supposed to be elections in Libya, postponed I don't know how many times. So what you are having here, even if you have armed groups that are operating outside that, the law, It is because in Libya, as we said, that GNU has not actually proved to be working. And hence we have this tension of armed groups leaving their countries to receive military training. But that's where I'm going back to that question, that there are no laws regulating them. One can look them as irreducible culprits, that they are not willing even to have a social cohesion in Libya, to look around returning civilian rule into Libya, because it has been under military rule for many years. So you have this tension that you have of two military leaders who have been getting support from the Arab League. Some of them, they've been even receiving support from the United Nations. Hence, you had a United Nations mission in Libya that has also proved to have not worked. The AU has been muted on the question of North Africa and Libya particularly. So you'll understand that the dynamics of the armed military conflicts, it also gets into violating of also other countries' laws. Hence, you find that they have come to this country through Tunisia and lying again. So you'll find that they will always try to find means of justifying their military activities. But at some point, they violate the laws of other countries, such as South Africa.
I mean, again, to reiterate the point that you make, we're not sure who they are. We're not sure who would have funded them. We're not sure what their mandate has been. Safe to say what police have found and what we've now shared with the public. So in asking these questions, again, it's just about trying to get this bigger context of what's happening inside the country itself. And we know that one of the sort of key figures, I want to say, Advocate Mantula, and this is Khalifa Haftar, who is head of the Libyan armed or Libyan Arab armed forces. One of those sort of is the head of one of these big influential groups that is operating in the space. Talk to us if you have information on this, on the Libyan Arab armed forces and other groups like them which are currently operating in Libya, and what the nature of those operations are.
You know, Imam, it is quite difficult to get into their operations because by nature they are secret, they are clandestine. And when you look at Khalifa after, it is that they have not claimed also that this group of the illegal migrants who were arrested in South Africa, are they linked to their operations? That is first. And secondly, you will understand that for them, even if we are still saying we are likely investigating them, the correct law for us to can prosecute them is under that regulation I've mentioned of Foreign Military Assistance Act that South Africa drafted between 1996 and 1998. And you will recall, Imam, this is not for the first time we have secret military camps in this country. It appears that Limpopo, Mpumalanga, that's where we find these activities being not noticed by the crime intelligence or our defense intelligence to look at how to deal with armed irregular groups, military groups who are linked to either one of the conflicts. And you will understand, if you are in Mpumalanga, will be worried that are they involved also in the Cabo Delgado conflict, but nothing has been linked to them in Cabo Delgado. Secondly, you'll understand the issue of drugs, the issue of money laundering. Whenever you have the irregular armed groups, they will always pursue 2 or 3 things: selling of drugs, ransom, committing crimes, and as well as what I will say to you, the human trafficking element. And that's how I will tell you that they are not linked to one of the armed groups in Libya so far. But it is important for Interpol, it is important for the AU intelligence community to understand dynamics of North Africa, that it will have a broader impact to the African continent if we don't arrest the current situation of having irregular armed groups in secret camps, particularly in the SADC region.
Advocate Mantula, I mean, again, it's important that we see a great deal of vigor, criminal intelligence. One of the criticisms raised is around the State Security Agency. You'd have heard from a member of the Police Portfolio Committee this morning on this particular issue around where answers are going to be sought from. I did have an interview with one of the police spokespeople last week when the story broke about this ring actually being exposed as a result of some of their crime intelligence work. But the question, I guess, is how immediate, how timeous, and how in-depth are these, integrated enforcement networks in South Africa to be able to predict, prevent, but also then to find and to root out these types of operations on South African soil?
Absolutely, ma'am. You need to have what we call the integrated crime intelligence strategy that is based on also to understand what I said to you earlier, the foreign intelligence sharing of information, but even the community and even the farm owners. Remember that they've been arrested in the farm area. So you'll understand that there's even colluding by South African citizens with foreign nationals, and you'll never know what is the end goal? What is the purpose of allowing people to come and train in a foreign soil? And secondly, as we have said, yes, we might lament about our crime intelligence, our state security in terms of their analysis, in terms of dealing with such crimes. But it is important to give credit where it is due that this has been a driven intelligence. It is not only SAPS and Home Affairs. It is also something that has been behind the scenes by tracking many secret camps. And remember, Imam, it's not only the foreign nationals only. You might also have right-wing nationals in this country who are having such military camps. And it will be important for this country and our crime intelligence to go after them also and raise this law that I've mentioned, that we have never used that Foreign Military Assistance Act effectively. We have tried it, but we have not used it so that it can bite. It can also deal with such irreducible culprits in the region. So it is important that we need to raise the issue of community cooperation. It is the community that must also assist the crime intelligence community to can deal with such armed groups when they are having secret camps in this country, because that also defies our constitutional obligation of saying that we want to have a rule of law, we want to live in peace and harmony. But if we are having armed groups trained in South Africa, not knowing their purpose and their mission, that will also defeat our national obligation and our regional obligation.
Speaking of which, as you widen that aperture, Advocate Mantula, what is the role of organizations like the African Union? Of course, we know that we have regional sort of security bodies like ECOWAS and others across the African continent, regionally speaking, to manage conflicts and to manage sometimes the internal and domestic political situations. Should they be a part of these conversations? And how well and sort of, well researched is the level of, political, armed activity outside of those countries, especially in terms of the threat that it poses to a particular country itself?
Absolutely. But Imam, let me take your viewers also to say, when you link Libya, Algeria, in Algeria, that's where we have our AU, what you can call AU Intelligence Ops Center. That's where it is the nerve center of the continent. That's where they should have been able to understand, detect and assist member states. But South Africa also, it is the member of the Peace and Security Council. So South Africa will also be concerned about these irregular armed groups. And secondly, the AU might have lost, but it is important for intelligence analysis that we use what we have in the region and try to arrest the current situation, because it will spill over that we are allowing armed groups to also be a threat to the nationals of the hosting country. So it is important that even if we raise the AU slowness or its lack of intervention, but the intelligence community within the AU, they do share information, Imam. And I think the role of media also comes handy and comes in a way that it is helpful also to assist the intelligence community to can deal with such threats that are coming to the region. Hence, I said to you, South Africa is part of the AU. We have been talking about silencing of guns by 2030. So it is important that we look at this aspect of where we have criminal activities happening behind our backyard. And that's why I said to you, the AU, the Arab League, the SADC region, they have to understand this. I think when they meet in Zimbabwe soon, they will look as the Troika. How do you deal with with such armed groups that are having their own freedom, they are having their honeymoon in South Africa, when actually we know the conflicts that are happening in the Sahel region, the conflicts that are happening in North Africa and in West Africa. So it is important, Imam, like I said to you, that the AU has to be steadfast, the AU has to engage its member states, and as well as South Africa, as part of the Peace and Security Council, we should take a lead and also assist the African continent.
Advocate Sipho Mantula from the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs. Thank you very much for talking to us this morning. Appreciate it. More for you. The latest updates will go to court, and we'll take you to the electricity briefing as well. That's coming up just now. Do stay with us.